Am I the antagonist for defending my friend who was fat-shaming my GF? My GF and I have been dating for a few months, and for a double date we went with my friend and his GF to go rock climbing. I don't know the first thing about rock climbing, so he did all the rope work and taught us to belay. It was pretty thrilling, and my GF was a little scared but enjoying it. He climbed up bringing the rope up, set anchors, and we just top roped. We hiked to another part of this canyon, and he said this was the place him and his GF simul-rappelled, not sure if that's how you spell it. He said it was amazing but dangerous and was explaining the rope set up to do it. He joked it was the climber's version of a couple's trust fall. My GF asked if we could do it since there was still some time left, and he said it was dangerous and that it needed to be done with 2 people. My GF looked at me and I said I was down for anything, and the friend looked uncomfortable and told her any weight difference over about 50 pounds between the 2 people isn't a good idea, and ideally the weights are as close as possible since we would essentially be balancing each other. He said there were safer techniques, simul is just faster. My friend and his GF are skinny people, as is basically everyone we've seen climbing that day. I'm a bigger dude at 220-230 lb, and I don't know my GF's weight, but it's not a bad guess that she's more than 50 pounds than me. My friend is a total adrenaline junkie, and I think if he says it's dangerous, it's best not to do it. My GF looked really unhappy but didn't say anything. She is insecure about her weight, and during sex she doesn't like me touching her belly, arms, and legs. On the drive home, my GF was ranting about what an asshole my friend was. I got annoyed that she was badmouthing him because he was nice enough to let us use his gear and show us the ropes, haha. I told her he is the expert, and she complained he was just eyeballing her weight, and I asked if she would be okay with standing on scales with me to confirm we were less than 50 pounds difference. She got really mad and said it doesn't matter if there was a 50 pounds difference, he was judging her for her weight, and I didn't come to her defense. I was pretty annoyed and told her I wasn't coming for my friend who was only looking out for our safety. She called it fat shaming, and I guess it was to an extent, but he's also not wrong. NTA. Your friend wasn't judging your girlfriend's weight. He was making a risk assessment based on what he could see. For him to have allowed the 2 of you to proceed would have meant that he was being irresponsible and that he was endangering your lives all so that she wouldn't feel judged. NTA. I'm overweight, and once when we went to a water park, there are some slides that I couldn't get into because I am over the weight limit. I didn't feel like they fat-shamed me. If I ride that slide, my weight plus the gravity will probably make me injure myself. I understand that your GF is feeling upset, but you can't compromise safety over emotions. No one's attacking her. You and your friend just wants to be safe. NTA, he wasn't fat-shaming her, he was making sure you were both safe. What your friend did was risk assessment, not fat-shaming. People must abandon the notion that any mention of weight, for whatever reason, is shaming. Sometimes it's just a fact of life. He wasn't being mean, he was just concerned about everyone's safety. Am I the antagonist for having my sister's friend's car towed when she kept intentionally blocking me in my driveway? Backstory: I am 10 years older than my younger sister and have a house about 2 hours from my parents' house where she lives. My sister often stays with me on the weekends because I live a few minutes from a large recreational lake. This is fine, as long as she is quiet and allows me to sleep as I work 5A-5P shifts all weekend. My sister is very courteous, and I enjoy having her over. However, my sister has been bringing her new friend with her. They drive separately because the friend leaves for summer school on Sunday nights, and my sister is on summer break and often stays until Monday afternoon so we can spend more time together because I work weekends. This friend has been nothing but trouble. She is very loud, obnoxious, and annoying. She often wakes me several times during the night laughing loudly, going in and out of the house and slamming the door, using the microwave/oven timer, etc. I have nicely told her to please keep the noise down, and she always says that she is trying to be quiet, but forgets sometimes that I'm there. The major issue is that the friend continues to park directly behind me in my driveway where I cannot back out to go to work in the mornings. I go to bed around 8 p.m. on Fridays, and the friend usually arrives at my house later than that, so I can't catch it as it happens. I always have to find her keys in the morning to move the car myself, or if I can't find them, wake her to move her car. This has almost made me late for work every Saturday for the past 5 weeks. I remind her the next day when I get home to please not park behind me because there is plenty of street parking, but it never fails for her to be behind me the next Saturday when I leave for work. This week was the last straw. I set up a traffic cone behind my car last night to remind her to not park behind me. When I woke up this morning, I saw that she had moved the cone and parked behind me even though the space behind my sister was empty and there was plenty of street parking in front of my house. I was extremely angry, as this was at least the 5th week I'd told her to not park behind me. I called a tow truck and had her car towed. While I was at work, I got an angry text from the friend asking about her car. I explained to her that I'd had it towed and that she was not to block me unintentionally again, or she was no longer welcome in my house. My sister and her friend both think I'm TA, but I feel that after so many reminders, my actions were justified. Am I the antagonist? Update: my sister has apologized to me. She was unaware of the times I had to move her friend's car and only knew about the 2x I had to wake her friend to find her keys and move the car. The friend did not tell her I was moving her car in the mornings. I tried not to start drama between the two of them by calling the friend out in front of my sister, so she truly did not know how I felt. She and I have agreed that the friend is not to come back over, and I doubt she and the friend will remain friends for much longer. Thanks for the clarification that I was not TA. NTA, and why do you allow her in your house? Tell your sister she is welcome, but her friend is not allowed on your property at all so she can get a hotel. All I needed to know is 1. It's your property 2. They know you need to get onto the road 3. They are preventing you from doing so NTA. They can have fun getting their car out of the impound lot. NTA, she forgets that you're there, in your house? Nope. She's got to go. Despite being told repeatedly not to, she parked behind OP. And the fact that she has to move the cone to park where she was told not to park demonstrates that she did it on purpose. I'm glad for the update, but the moving of the cone to park behind you tells me she did it on purpose. Am I the antagonist for not sharing what I wrote in my family therapy journal with my dad and stepmom and for what I wrote in there? Started family therapy with my dad and stepmom almost a year ago. The therapist is great. She does individual with me once a week and we see her as a group once a week as well. Session 1, she gave us a diary each to write in every week and for us to discuss with her/the group if we want after. I never share what I write with them. I do share with the therapist. We talk about it a lot. A couple of weeks back I had filled the original diary she gave me, so she found another one for me. My dad and stepmom wanted to hear what I wrote, but I said I didn't want to share it with them. For context, I lost my mom when I was 8. Parents were divorced. Dad was dating her at the time, but I met her like 5 weeks after I lost my mom. Dad moved the relationship along really fast so I would have another mom. I told him I wouldn't accept another mom. He told me I would see, that it would be so easy. A little over a year later they had a baby together and then another and another and another. From the time the first baby was born they have mentioned adopting me, when I wouldn't go along with that and they were told it was a no-go without my being on board by some lawyers. They had her become my legal guardian and set it up so she would get me if Dad died, and they have enforced that I must spend at least 6 hours of my week doing some bonding time with her, as a way to push past the distance I keep from her as a mother figure. So in my diary I have wrote how I wish my mom was there for stuff instead of her. How sometimes I close my eyes when something special is happening in my life and in my head I swap my stepmom out for my mom, and I imagine the conversation Mom and I would have had or what she would say to me in the moment. I write about that a lot. And how growing up without a mom sucks. How not having a mom as a teenager is rough as hell. Then we discuss it. The therapist was mostly concerned with the upset I feel when I swap them out in my head and then have to face reality, so we're working on that. Anyway, my dad and stepmom, saying they were concerned they were left in the dark about something important rooted through my stuff, found the therapy diary and read the whole thing. Then they got so mad. They asked how I could be so cruel. How I could dismiss her so easily. To say I grew up without a mom when my stepmom is right there, doing all them other things. Then it became how that was important to share with them in therapy so we could fix it. They ended up lashing out at the therapist and they are now refusing to use her services again. They are looking for someone new. While I am public enemy number one. Am I the antagonist? Iscus with her / the group if we want after sharing was not a requirement and never should have been. You are entitled to have private thoughts. How that was important to share with them in therapy so we could fix it. By fitted they mean learn how to make you fall in line, and faster than it is happening. They are looking for someone new. By someone new they mean someone who will do what they want, not what is needed. NTA, but I think your therapist could confirm that way better than strangers on Am I the Antagonist? Seems like they are not actually taking the therapy seriously, just seeking peace of mind for their bad behavior. NTA, I am sorry about everything. You didn't mention your age? Your parents have no right to read your personal stuff. And they can't impose a mom on you when you are not ready to replace your real mom. Your stepmom can have her own place in your life. You can still love her without replacing your mom. I just don't understand step-parents' obsession to replace the bio parents. You are entitled to have your feelings and emotions, and your parents have absolutely no right to blame you for that. The purpose of a therapy journal is to help you deal with your feelings about things like this in a private way that does not harm those around you. You have a right to your emotions. I'm sorry your parents ignored your needs and boundaries. Refuse to communicate with the new therapist. Simply sit and stare at the wall. It's pointless to express your emotions if you're going to get in trouble for it. Am I the antagonist for ruining my sister's engagement because I told her husband the truth? I am not close with my sister at all. I am 25 female, in school, working, living on my own. I have not talked to Kitty, 28 female, in 7 years. We have chatted, but it is only to make my mom happy. It is only about TV shows and Kitty's life. I don't tell her anything about my own, and my parents know not to share anything with her. I have been late to every holiday, so that Kitty will be gone by then. I don't have her on social media, she is muted on my phone, and she has never met my new partner, Kylie. My mom begged me to come to family dinner, because Kitty is engaged and they want to talk about the wedding. I agreed to go on the condition that Kitty call me by my preferred name. My full name is Thomasina, I go by Macy. Kitty insisted for years on calling me Tom/Tommy, which I hate with a passion. Mom said they would have a chat and I went. Things were going really well until we went out to the bonfire pit. Mom went inside to get dessert and Dad said he needed to hit the hay. I ended up thinking, foolishly, that maybe Kitty had matured. Brad, 30 male, seemed really nice. Brad asked why I hadn't invited Kyle to the meal, as he would love to meet him. I asked if he meant Kylie, my girlfriend. He looked really confused and said he must have misheard. When Kitty went inside to get another beer, he asked me if I had ever dated someone named Kyle. I said no. I dated women exclusively. He then asked me a few more questions about my life. It became really obvious that he thought I was close with Kitty when I was not. I was honest with him and said I had not really spoken with her in 7 years, we were not close, she is not on my social media, and I was not going to go to the wedding. My mom had asked me to come. I said I should probably head home. Brad asked if I lived local. I said yes. I lived down the road. He got up, went inside, and got into a screaming match with Kitty about her lying to him. They left pretty quickly. I found out from my mom that Brad has asked for them to go to therapy, that he thinks Kitty is a liar or cheating. Am I the antagonist? NTA, you answered Brad's questions. Imagine his shock as he connected the lies she spun. You are all adults. You spoke the truth. Kitty ruined her engagement, not you. NTA. Looks like either Kitty is homophobic and embarrassed to have a lesbian sister, or there is indeed a Kyle she is cheating on Brad with and was using you as a convenient prop for her lies. Or maybe both. NTA. How could it possibly be your fault that your sister lied to her fiancé? All you did was answer questions honestly and truthfully. It's not exactly polite to start a screaming match with your wife at her parents' house, but clearly discovering the truth about you was the straw that broke the camel's back on a number of other issues in their relationship. It appears that there is some strange homophobia going on. If your wife does not deal with it, you should tell your mother-in-law directly. Am I the antagonist for stopping my parents from paying for my sister's IVF and telling her she can't afford to have a kid? I am M23. My sister is F28, married to M30 for 6 years. My sister has been trying for a baby for about 3 years now, without success. 18 months ago, she and her husband came to my parents and asked if we'd finance an IVF treatment. My parents have some savings separate from retirement and agreed to pay for it, and I even pitched in a few $100s to show my support even though I didn't have a lot of savings, having just started work after graduation. Unfortunately, the IVF failed. Yesterday, my sister and brother-in-law came over again for dinner. Afterwards, my sister said she wanted to try another round of IVF and asked my parents if they would pay for it again. I could tell my parents looked hesitant, but they agreed because my sister was crying. At this point, I stood up and said it's not right for her to ask again for our parents' money for something that didn't work before and may not work again. We argued a bit, and I admit that things got heated and we had a big fight. She yelled at me that it was none of my business. I told her if she can't pay for the IVF, then she needs to accept that she can't afford a kid. She told me to get out, but I refused. My parents were trying to calm us down. My mom started telling me that it's not my money, to which I replied that it's basically a gift to one child and not the other, and that it was only fair that I be given a similar amount of money as what they would spend on my sister. My sister started complaining that it's not a gift, it's a treatment for a medical condition, and if I'd expect payment if she had cancer and my parents paid for chemo. I told her not being able to have a kid poses no threat to her life the way cancer does, and it's a completely disingenuous comparison. My dad finally stood up and yelled at us both to shut up and sit down. Then he told my sister that they already paid for one, and I had a point that continuing to pay for it would be unfair. He said he's very sorry for what she's going through, but they need to accept things how they are. My sister started crying again, and her husband, who had been quiet and looking uncomfortable the whole time, took her and left. Today my sister sent me some texts calling me an asshole for sticking my nose in her business and keeping her from having a baby. Am I the antagonist? NTA, the way you said it was harsh, bordering on asshole territory. But your parents were about to just hand over tens of thousands of dollars that they probably need for their retirement years because your sister was crying. Your sister is only 28. There's time for her and her husband to save the money to have IVF again in a few years. Or they can ask other family or friends to chip in. But you did the right thing to help safeguard your parents' retirement needs. NTA, I get that infertility is hard, but comparing IVF to chemo? Not being able to afford IVF doesn't necessarily mean someone can't afford a kid, but your sister sounds extremely entitled and almost panicked, so perhaps you're right. She sounds vaguely manipulative too, saying vague because God knows what you can tell from a Reddit thread. Thus not the a-hole from me. Maybe you didn't bring this up / handle it in a perfect way, but I'm glad you stepped in on behalf of your parents. They probably would never have been able to say no, and, honestly, IVF is expensive AF. Unless you sent an infertility hex at her, there is no way you are responsible for her not having a baby. While it's unfortunate, and truly feel for your sister, she's going to have to be patient about a baby. You pointed out legitimate problems with the scenario. The fighting was poor behavior, and you shouldn't yell at someone to get your point across if it can be helped. Am I the antagonist for wanting to use my college fund for law school rather than on my stepbrother? I, 18 female, am about to go to college. I have a full ride to my state university, which I chose over paying in full at a much more prestigious school because I plan on going to a prestigious and expensive law school. My parents' income is too high to qualify me for any financial aid. I have a college fund of about $100,000. My stepbrother has one of about $70,000, 19 male. Mine is half from my mom, half from my dad. His is from my dad, his mom, and the inheritance from his deceased father. My stepbrother is attending a very expensive out-of-state university and has nearly blown through his fund. He is now very stressed about having to take out loans since he is not going into a high-income field. He and my stepmother are urging me to give him my college fund, or at least some of it, so he can avoid taking out as many loans. Their reasoning is that then we'd have an equal start of undergrad, that the fund was intended for undergrad only, that I'd have a higher paying job so I'm more able to pay back loans, and that my mom was more capable of supporting me since she has a higher income than my dad's household and my stepbrother's father is dead. My dad is neutral and told me to choose, but that family is more important than money. My mom supports putting it towards law school and thinks it's the smartest choice. NTA. Your stepbrother and stepmother are entitled as. I wouldn't give them any of the money. If your stepmother really wanted your stepbrother to have an equal college fund, she should have planned ahead better. She had 19 years to put more money aside, for crying out loud. Keep the money yourself because this is an important amount of money that could make your life easier. He can take those loans like the rest of us and suffer. Or he could have chosen a cheaper school since he's not going in a high-paying job field. Alternatively, he can transfer back in state and go to a cheaper school. NTA, tell your mom. I guarantee that she wouldn't be happy that your stepmom is trying to pressure you to give away money that she contributed to. Your mom wouldn't be interested in paying for your stepbrother's college in any way, shape, or form. Seriously. Tell your mom. And if your stepbrother spent $70,000 in 1 year on college, he could completely drain your $100,000 account and still need loans, in the amount of $100,000 plus. So, don't throw your money away like your stepbrother has thrown his. Your stepmom and dad gave your stepbrother bad advice when they let him attend a $70 plus college. This is their mess to clean up, not yours. Your stepmom and dad can figure out how they're going to borrow $210,000 plus. No one will lend that much to stepbrother, and even stepmom and dad probably can't/won't borrow that much. But, please, tell your mom what's going on. Explain that you don't think it's fair they want to spend stepbrother's savings and yours besides, especially when some of your money came from mom. She'll have your back. No way, no how. That is your cash. Use it to pursue your dreams. Your stepbrother is already making bad financial decisions and will almost certainly continue to do so. If you let him, he'll blow through your money as well. Keep your cash to yourself. Instead, dad and stepmom could take out a loan.